Hello, everybody. This is Progressive AF. I am Cameron Williams. I am here with a new co-host of ours, Miss
Anna Taylor.
Along with our executive producer,
Travis Hatfield,
our co-host,
Justin Weaver,
and my other co-host,
Mark Girdler.
And we're going to be talking about some issues today that are going on in the world that need to be addressed, that need progressive solutions. The topics that we're going to be talking about today, we're talking about a local topic. Our city council is choosing to limit our freedom of speech. We'll be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about some local politicians who do not love owls. We're going to be talking about a national topic, the huge, important topic of police reform. And we will also be talking about the presidential candidates in the primary Democratic election.
Well, and if you notice that we're a little more somber than usual, it's because, what's his name?
John Delaney.
Dropped out of the race, which I don't even know if I want to vote anymore.
Can we have a moment of silence for our dearly departed, what was his name again?
John Delaney. Yeah.
John Delaney,
yeah.
guys. All right.
Well, that was
was
nice.
enough, yeah.
That was great.
That was great. So, what are we down to now as far as candidates?
We're down to, of course, Bernie, who is going to win.
Oh, yeah.
Biden guy is still in the race. I can't believe he hasn't dropped out of it.
Ice cream Bloomberg.
Big gay ice
Bloomberg
cream.
is still in there.
Biden better not do any campaign stops in any nursing homes because they're going to keep him. He has dementia. Just throwing that out there.
Or he's going to poke an old person in the chest too hard and knock him over is what's going to happen.
What do you say?
Yeah, I mean...
He's going to get some elder abuse charges.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We still got... we got Buttigieg.
Oh,
a good old boot.
Old rat-faced dweeb.
We got Elizabeth Warren, of course, is still in there.
Somehow.
Tom Steyer.
Got some mixed emotions about Warren.
Steyer's
a
in
lot
there.
Of mixed emotions.
And Klobuchar. Klobuchar is still in there. Those are the big ones.
She's taking some heat right now from the NAACP.
Oh, yeah?
Could you tell us more about that, Travis?
Apparently, according to her her record as a prosecutor, the NAACP is asking her to drop out of the race.
Why are they asking her? What did she do?
Anna?
Well, from what I read when she was a prosecutor, she basically botched a case against a young man who was on trial for murder, whose co-defendant literally said he wasn't there for the murder, but she pushed for it anyway. And the guy's mom died while he was in prison, and she wouldn't even let him leave for the funeral because he was a threat to society somehow.
Ooh,
so
it's crazy. She seems like such a good person.
Oh, yeah.
When she's up on that stage.
Throwing staplers at her, interns.
She's won every election she's ever had. She loves pointing that out.
You guys remember in the 90s whenever the Clintons talked about black males as super predators?
Yep.
Yes.
This is very reminiscent of that. Like, this is... If she's a nominee, you can just give it to Trump because I would be surprised if a single black person shows up. And as the blue, no matter who crowd loves to point out, to Bernie supporters, you have to have the African American vote. So she might as well just give it up.
Yeah.
That Klobuchar, I mean, she's not even close towards the top of the ranking. So I mean, just drop out. You're not going to get it. I know it's hard to drop out because you spend so much money on these campaigns. All these donors give you so much millions, but it's over with. You're not going to get it.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's got to be frustrating for like Steyer and Bloomberg to be these guys that are so used to getting absolutely everything they want, and they're just a joke. Like, nobody takes them seriously. They're getting, every time they put out a new video, they're getting mocked by everybody. Like, that's got to really hurt them.
Okay, well, one thing actually threw me and Anna for a loop yesterday. We met a Bloomberg supporter.
We did.
In the
flesh.
Wow.
We were tabling for the Richland YDSA, and I asked, this is how I gauge someone's politics. Who's your nominee? She says, "Oh, Bloomberg." What?
Wow. Like, how?
How did I find the only Bloomberg supporter in Decatur, Illinois?
In all of Illinois,
in,
probably.
in all of the nations, probably.
I thought he
Outside of
wasn't
New
even
York.
in it anymore, but I saw some
Yeah.
Bloomberg ads, and I'm like, what?
He's only been in it for a pretty short amount of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Michael,
very sure.
actor Michael Douglas is a Bloomberg supporter too.
Oh, okay.
He's
There you
doing
go.
commercials on iHeartRadio for Bloomberg.
There's 2 votes.
Like, he hasn't done a movie since, early 90s?
That's about as valuable as the John Voight weird deranged Trump videos that keep coming out for some reason, even though no one's asking for that
You know,
at all.
we should see if Clint Eastwood would come back and talk to a chair again for Trump.
Yes.
What about that Buttigieg, guys? How you guys like that Buttigieg?
CIA test tube baby, Buttigieg.
I'm
that's
a
what
gay man and I don't like him.
As a gay woman, I also don't like him. He recently was asked about Kobe Bryant and his death, and his response was that Kobe had touched a lot of lives on and off the field. For those who might not know, somehow Kobe played basketball, which most normal people who are not out of touch with reality don't call the basketball court a field. So
Yeah.
No, I always
There's
bet
that.
ball on the
Yeah.
field, man. Just,
Yeah.
all the time.
No, and as a rat-faced dweeb myself, I also don't like Buttigieg. So just want to throw that out there.
Oh, and of course, he had the founding fathers didn't really understand that slavery was bad.
The slave's
Right.
literally in the room, and he doesn't understand it. Okay.
Yep.
All men are created equal except for this motherfucker. I mean,
These almost all of the camps we're talking about, to me, seem like people who should have dropped out like on day 5.
yeah,
This is like the bottom of the barrel, and somehow they're still hanging on.
I'm still with the idea. I mean, I think it makes sense, the theory that, of course, they threw so many contendants into the election to try and take votes away from Bernie Sanders so they can have a runoff,
that's
and then they
exactly
use the superdelegates. I
Exactly.
mean, that's what was talked about before, at the beginning of this,
Yep.
when they had the 30 whatsoever candidates
Mhm.
going for this presidency, knowing not half of them. Oh, one that we forgot Andrew Yang is also in it. We know the
Oh.
Yang.
Oh my God,
Yang
the Yang
Gang.
Yang is still in there.
The
yeah.
UBI. You know what's going to happen as soon as the UBI would pass? So you have a bunch of poor folk with $1,000 more in their bank accounts, and they have greedy ass landlords.
Mhm.
Guess who really is going to have $1,000 more? It's going to be those greedy ass landlords. So it's problematic from the start. The only way you could do it is if you introduce national rent control on top of the
Mhm.
UBI, in my opinion.
I can't
I
believe John
agree.
Delaney was still in it, man.
Well, he was polling at
Who is he?
0%. So
John Delaney. I remember one of the debates they had, and he had nothing. He
I
just-
couldn't, in
oh.
good faith, as a human being, reach out to people if I had 0% of the vote right before Iowa and say, listen, I need your money. I mean, that's just flushing your cash down the toilet at that point.
You might as well eliminate the money, man, and just flush it yourself.
Right. You also have Tulsi Gabbard, who's still in the
Oh.
race.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I forget
About
she's still in
Tulsi.
it. Yeah.
And she is suing Hillary Clinton right
Mm.
now
Saw
for
that.
$50 million.
Not all heroes wear capes.
And she made sure to tweet that she was not suicidal and was having no thoughts whatsoever of harming herself.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't agree with all of her politics, but she's entertaining.
She
And
is.
she's also really hot, in my opinion. I'm sorry, but
Oh, no.
just
Please
throwing that
don't
out
apologize.
there.
Yeah.
I must say, the weird gray streak, I'm cool
Just
with
does
it.
it for you. I mean, hey, you know.
So those are the candidates. We can always talk about Biden, Mr. Old Joe.
Corn Pop.
Corn pop.
I think Bernie has taken over as the top spot
Oh, yeah.
nationally. I think
Nationally, yes.
it's crazy that Biden has had this whole time when he's been so horrible at every
Mhm.
single debate.
Every single day, there's another video
Yep.
released. Like yesterday, I saw him stroking a young girl's cheek. She was like 9, and he's just getting at it.
Oh my
I'm like, if I was that parent, he would not be running for office. He would be in a cornfield somewhere
Right.
after I killed his ass for inappropriately touching my child.
One thing that really shocked me when it comes to Biden is the support that he has in the African American community. I mean, knowing that he was the main sponsor of the crime bill
Mhm.
that happened in the around 1990s.
Yeah, it was in the 90s. I think it's because he was Obama's VP.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's what is powering his campaign right now. He was Obama's VP.
completely.
And what some people don't get is you could still be a racist and be a VP to the only African American president. Because if somebody is going to give you power, it doesn't matter what race they are, you're going to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not exactly like Obama was. I don't know. Who am I thinking of? He was pretty milquetoast, you know.
I lost respect for him after Flint when he got up on that stage and in front of all those people said, "Yeah, give me a cup of water. I'll drink it right here."
This water's safe to drink.
Barely wet his
I don't know what
lips.
you're talking about.
Yeah,
That was
Twice.
just the end. Yeah, two
Twice.
times.
No, the Obama?
Yes.
No, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, he put it up
Yeah.
to his lips and he just barely let it touch. And they booed him.
Yeah.
But they booed him live for
You
it.
can't blame him either.
Yeah, you can't
It's
blame him.
ridiculous.
I mean, the person who should have the most African American support is Bernie Sanders. I mean, he walked with Martin Luther King.
I know,
he
man.
protested when he was before anybody knew who he was in college. He, shackled himself with other African American women fighting for rights, and yet you're gonna go for Joe Biden just because he was Obama's VP? Come on, guys, you gotta do better than that.
I blame it on, and this is a symptom or something that's a problem with every single community in America: low information. They don't remember Bernie walking in the civil rights movement, but they do remember, a few years ago, Biden was Obama's guy.
Yeah,
So,
recency bias.
Yeah, recency. Yeah, sure.
The media, big time too.
Yeah.
I mean, CNN was pushing for Amy Klobuchar for that solid week. Her rise to Iowa, it's like, no. just that's all you can say is no, it's not happening.
Every centrist pundit in America has been in love with Klobuchar for some inexplicable reason.
I think the last polls I saw, Bernie was running away with it in Iowa and in Texas, believe it or not. He's even running away with it against Trump in Texas, and that's when you know Trump's in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Well, the centrists don't fear losing; they fear Bernie winning.
Mm-hmm.
Right, for sure.
So all this, Bernie can't win, lies. They are lying through their teeth.
Yeah, you completely lie, man. I mean, he has the momentum. He's had the momentum. He has all the support. He's getting the most donations, and they're all small dollar donations.
Yep.
I mean, Trump always wants to talk about, I made the most money. Of course, he's made most money. He's friends with the millionaires and billionaires, throwing them cash for favors. That's why he has more money.
Release the tax returns, because I don't think he's even a tenth as wealthy as he says.
Doubt it.
And the fact that a super PAC came out with an ad attacking Bernie, and that same day Bernie received $1.3 million in donations. That says a lot about Bernie's momentum going into the Iowa caucuses, which is not too far off.
Oh, it's like a week away now?
We're a few days
Monday, I
away,
think.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
man.
Monday.
Yeah.
It's exciting times, guys.
But how amazing, if the fate of the world wasn't in the balance, how amazing would a Joe Biden, Donald Trump debate be?
Oh,
That would be the
my God.
greatest thing of all time. It would be, none of it would make any sense. It would be one meme after another. It
Yeah.
would be the craziest, most surreal television ever.
That would be a Saturday Night Live dream.
But what would SNL even do?
Yeah,
they couldn't
like,
even
how
top
do they satirize satire?
I mean, just the walk up to each other at the beginning to shake hands. I would feel like it was like the biggest prize fight of all time. I wonder if Trump was going to do some weird elbow shake.
Yeah,
Biden was going to grab him by the lapels. I mean, literally anything could happen in that debate.
Entertainment wise, it would be the best thing that ever happened.
Oh yeah. So the Iowa caucus is on Monday. We are going for, obviously, all of us here are for Bernie Sanders because he has the most support and he's the only one who's going to change the country. You got everyone else out here: Buttigieg, Biden, Klobuchar, Warren.
I do want to interject. The DNC is already starting the rigging process. They have changed some of the polling locations, and people aren't going to find out until they go vote. So, we're seeing kind of a redo of 2016 already.
Just like, and we'll talk more on this later, just like what the city council is trying to do with limiting free speech, that is the single dumbest thing they can do, is to give an appearance of impropriety again, because Bernie supporters are already pretty aggrieved about what happened in 2016, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's riots if they do it
Why
again.
not just, they don't have a strong candidate.
No.
Nobody else has a prayer against Trump. Why not, just for the sake of letting go of the past, say, okay, you were sure that Bernie could beat him, so now you have your chance, and let's see if he can beat him or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just,
That would be the
It'd
smartest
be
thing
too
to
risky
do.
Yeah.
for them because half of the people in the DNC are wealthy.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
wealthy and they're
probably
making
100%
millions
of the people
off
in the
of
DNC.
the people, the
Yeah,
American
yeah.
citizens. They know what they're doing. They're making millions of dollars off of lobbyists. So they know even if Bernie Sanders has a slight chance of winning, it would cost them too much money,
Yeah.
and they would not allow it.
It's naked self-interest.
it's going to be one of the great what ifs of politics if we never get to see if he could have beaten Trump. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that's the battle of the Titans, I think.
But you know what I want Bernie to do if he does get the nom? I want him to get just the most radical, like, trans black woman as VP or something. So, like, all the right wingers are just scared to death of him dying. They'll, like, be his biggest healthcare fan. Like, Bernie, please stay alive so we don't get, like, this Marxist in office or something.
I feel like that way about Trump. Like when people say they want him to be dead, I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
no.
I don't want Pence.
No,
No.
God, no.
No way.
No.
So, yeah, that's the Democratic candidates in the primary election. Let's hope that Bernie makes it. Let's hope. The Iowa caucus is on Monday. Pay attention, everybody. Let's get him into office so that we can make a change in this country.
Awesome.
So, do you guys want to do the local the city council now?
Talk about civility.
Civility. So the city council here in Decatur, Illinois, they have been getting a lot of comments at their meetings of late because they are pretty corrupt, as we all know, as it's been pretty documented. And they've been getting a lot of comments criticizing them on their behavior and their votes. They have recently, in the next meeting, they are going to be calling for a vote to limit public comment on the topics that they discuss in these meetings. They are literally trying to take away our rights to speak at their meetings. It goes against everything the First Amendment, was made for. It's an outrage. Everyone in this city should come out in full force at the next city council meeting this Monday and let them know that you can't just have it your way, right?
Yep.
And to be fair, we're not talking about every member of the city council. The ones that are the problem, they know who they are, and everyone that watches, they know who we're talking about. We don't even have to say their name, really.
Yeah, I mean,
Gregory Cool McDowell.
it's a voting block of 4 people
Yeah.
that can make. I mean, they do literally controls every decision that's made.
Mhm.
Those 4 votes rarely. The only time I've ever seen them vote differently was McDaniel voted against the library parking lot. That's the only time I've seen them diverge from votes. And this happened back right before the cannabis meeting. This happened aimed squarely at me. I was the only person that was speaking up at them. But when that failed, then they tried to figure out a way to severely limit public comment at the cannabis meeting. They were talking about giving people 30 seconds to speak or a minute to speak and limiting it. And this all came because Chuck Kuehl did not want to have another Naperville. And in Naperville, their cannabis discussion went to like 1 or 2 in the morning. And so basically the city council was like, you know what? We're not going to devote this much time to what is easily the biggest issue in our city, at least of our generation, is having the chance to bring these businesses to town. So it's not like this is the first time they've done it, but I think this time it probably will pass, unfortunately.
I agree too. As a fellow city council watcher, those four vote in lockstep. Every once in a while, they'll pick up an extra vote from one of the other three, but those four will always vote the same. And none of them really seem to have a very big commitment to free speech. You would think a mayor who spent her life as a journalist, will say generously, would think free speech was something to protect, but I've been wrong before.
Well, and the whole idea is they presented it that it was to limit toxic atmosphere and promote civility. But the way that it's worded, and to be clear, if people don't understand how these meetings work, it opens with something called the appearance of citizens, which is a guaranteed right. There's nothing they can do to that. You get your 3 to 5 minutes, depending on which public body you're in front of. They can limit the total time, but even to do that is very, very frowned upon because it just doesn't make sense. If people come down, you should give them their 3 minutes. It's not some big deal. What they're doing is, in addition to saying that you cannot directly, trying to think of the way that they worded it in the policy, it was something like directly addressing complaints to specific council members. They don't want you to do that. They don't want you to make personal attacks, which is completely subjective, what counts as a personal attack.
After the time when they say you talk about people giving them personal attack, they're just stating facts.
Right.
Right, yeah.
When you called out Kuehl that one time, and he said, "Oh, that's misinformation." I can't remember what it was.
Well,
but
yeah.
He was literally on record saying it not even that long ago.
So I just went up.
It was about homeless people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was just like, "You're a liar, Chuck. That's not a personal attack. That's a fact.
That's true.
It's not a personal attack." And in fact, the wording in the Open Meeting Act says that it's not that it cannot be construed as a personal attack unless it's false.
I don't think we've said anything that's false or even a stretched truth.
I mean, I called him a lush with a tennis racket, but I stand by that. I mean, I really do. I think if we got an investigation, it would come through that he's a lush with a tennis racket because people message me, especially about the DUI, and they're like, "Oh, Chuck's leaving this bar tonight hammered or this bar hammered." And that's coming from people that are just sending me messages. I can't speak to the validity of them.
Sure.
But I do believe in my heart that he's a washed up lush.
But the city council cannot limit our our right to speak. They are a public body. I mean, I didn't vote them in. I don't think there was that many people who voted them
16%.
16.
Yeah, that's a ringing endorsement of our local politicians.
But they say we're still voted in, and we are allowed to comment on what they want. Well, I remember I saw it. They can choose what you can talk about, right?
Right. The issue is when something comes up for a vote that's actionable. They normally say, "Is there anybody on the council that has any comments?" And then they say, "Okay, we're going to open it up to the public." So what they're doing is they're going to shut that down. They're no longer going to open up to the public. You can submit in writing a question, and then they can hand pick which ones they want from that. But they're going to run into huge legal issues because if they pick somebody, what I think they think they're doing is they're going to stack the deck and only pick positive stuff, but you can't do that. So every time they pick a positive, they're going to have to pull a negative. And there's always going to be a negative because I'm going to send in a negative on every single issue, whether I agree with it or not. Because then they have to present the other side. So they think they're making it more efficient, but really they're just going to disrupt the meetings even worse than they are now.
Can't we get the ACLU in on this?
I don't think so because technically they can do what they're doing. Not limiting appearance of citizens, but they can take away the agenda items. It's just frowned upon because it's kind of an instilled part of Decatur politics that we're allowed to speak. And most public bodies, if you let them know ahead of time, even if they don't have it in the agenda, they'll let you speak on relevant items. And I've been to a lot of meetings. I've never heard anybody go off topic. The only person that ever has is maybe me, and that's because Chuck brought up the fact that told John Phillips that it was misinformation. So because he brought it up, that made it relevant, and I went up and told him he was a liar and he should resign. But it's technically not illegal. But if they try to enforce the appearance of citizens, like that you can't directly criticize them or you can't do personal attacks, then they're going to run into a lot of problems.
But can we mention why there might be a lack of civility?
Mm-hmm.
They're ignoring the public will. Like with native plants, that's what got me mad at Gregory, and I mentioned why before. The cannabis vote, wildly popular. We mentioned that. It was an 8-1 or even 10-1 margin in every poll I saw. That's how favorable it was. Even people that don't really smoke, like myself, was very in favor of it for the revenue, for the businesses. We saw it was a net positive. We keep seeing them ignore the public will, and that's what's making people mad. It's not a mystery. We've even told them that's why we're mad.
Right.
And they can't get up there and act like they're shocked. Oh my God, why are they coming after us?
Right.
We don't deserve any of this. Well, yes, you actually do.
Thinking about like the two biggest times I've seen so far at the city council meeting where there was people who wanted to give their comment was of course the cannabis issue and the DUI officer. You had so much public comment, and that's the reason why they're probably doing this, because of that right there. You had half of the people commenting were from the black community, letting them know, hey, we're threatened by this. We don't want this. We're afraid that we're going to be profiled. They had tons of people come out to that. And another one was the not zoning, the
Annexation.
Yeah. Those people came in and they went up and they commented saying, hey, we like the way that our lives are right now. And if you guys annex us into Decatur, we're going to be in trouble. Well, and we don't want that. And to think that they're trying to take that away. Those people wouldn't be allowed to come up there and say all this anymore.
Well, and the one guy got up too and he said the only reason that you're annexing us is because one of your rich friends lives in our neighborhood and he voluntarily annexed in. And that meant anybody that was attached to his property could be annexed in, which means anybody who's attached to those properties can be annexed in, so on and so forth.
And didn't he move from that neighborhood later? Like, he moved out.
I know there are people who were annexed in, not in this round of annexations, but the last time that they annexed people, who moved so that they would not be in Decatur, and now they're being dragged back in again. But Terry Howley wrote a thing in what's Osborne's newspaper, the Tribune.
Yeah, Decatur Tribune, I believe.
Because the mayor said that blamed all these annexations on Paul Osborne and previous mayors, and he said, no, we had plenty of money, so we didn't have to annex people because we ran the city right, which I brought up to them at a public meeting, and of course that was deemed a personal attack, I'm sure.
I think it's crazy that the city council is trying to find money in all these different areas by going against the will of the people when you have money that you could be getting through like a dispensary. They're going against the will of these people who don't want to be annexed in because they want that added money that would come with bringing them in.
Well, this is for the census.
Yeah.
This will set up, I think it's, 10 years of basis so I know why they do it, but as someone that doesn't like infringing on others' rights, I wouldn't do it personally. But the one story that really stuck out to me from the annexations was the little old lady walks up there. She says, you know what? I'm on a fixed income. Raising my taxes, giving me Decatur taxes is going to ruin me. Crying. They did not give a crap.
No.
They didn't care at all. They don't care half the time. I mean, like, McDaniel's always just up there just waiting to get out of this meeting.
That dude is so bored.
To anybody.
I don't even know why he's still in office.
But then somebody will get up and say, oh, well, I'm on the West End and somebody threw a rock at my car last night. And the mayor said, I'm so sorry. We can't wait to see you at such and such gathering in your neighborhood. That's really happened. Like, very similar stories. Those are the only people that get a response.
I know.
The other thing that's important that people aren't talking about is that they can respond now, but they choose not to. Mm-hmm. In the new policy, it's made clear that they can respond, but we can't respond to their response. They've made it very clear that citizens are not going to be allowed a rebuttal period.
Okay.
Of course.
I was actually thinking about proposing, I think they should move the comment section to the end of the meeting so that people can listen to their agenda and listen to how they talk about what they're doing, and then people give a fresh opinion on what they just talked about.
It sounds good in theory, but a lot less people would talk because most people only want to be there for issues that are relevant to them.
With this city council, I'm not really interested in hearing anything they say, to be perfectly honest. And it sounds bad on the surface, but it's because it's very predictable. Mm-hmm. If there were real votes where there might be some mystery, I would love to hear it and then make a comment. But for now, I'll make my comment because I already know what they're going to do.
True. Half the time when I've been there, of course, the only person who really talks who doesn't, I feel like doesn't have their mind made up and actually wants to discuss the topics is Horn. And he talks constantly about these issues, like, is this how much money is this going to make?
Right, he's asking questions.
Right.
Yeah,
Which
so
makes
that
them-
so that the Decatur people know what's going on here.
And they hate that. And they've called him out for it and
yeah.
said, oh, you're showboating. And he's like, no, I'm trying to discuss the issues in front of the people that these issues impact. And they're like, oh, well, you're just trying to divide the council and use this for your own political agenda.
Yeah, Gregory went off on him so hard that soft-spoken Faber asked her to table it. It's like, if any of you have met Faber, he's not a confrontational guy.
In all my years here, I've never seen anything like this. Oh, yes, you have, Bill. That's exactly how that went.
Well, the fact of the matter is, if they were actually listening to their constituents and listening to concerned people and voting the way that the citizens of the city that they're supposed to be representing feel, maybe you wouldn't have such population loss. You wouldn't have to annex all these people into the city.
Right.
You wouldn't have people, quote unquote, personally attacking you or bringing out negatives of what you're saying if you were actually listening to the people you're representing. So it's really as simple as that.
If they wanted to deflate the anger, the first thing they would have done is, well, Central Illinois DSA is the biggest activist group around. They would have reached out to us or even corresponded, because we've all emailed them at some point and said, hey, why don't we collaborate? Why don't we solve some problems together? Like, because we're on the grassroots. We're the community. So bring us to the table. We'll all talk about it. You won't have anyone angry at you at the meetings,
Right.
but they would rather just ignore all the citizens.
Well, there's another reason why they're not going to talk to people like us.
Because
If they're going to listen to the community, they're going to listen to people that can benefit them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
People that have money, people that have influence or power, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another important issue on this is that they're preaching this civility. And I've heard from, I couldn't even count the number of people that have told me, if you'll just be nice to them and you'll just listen to reason, they're never going to vote with you. And I'm at the point where I'm going to go up and tell them, I'm going to say, I don't expect you to vote with me anymore. I expect you to relinquish your power. And you're either going to do it willingly or we're going to take it. And that's as simple as it gets.
Well, and that's how we started. That's how I started. That's how you started. We all started with civility, thinking these were normal, reasonable human beings we were
I was
dealing
thinking
with.
about that. I mean, Mark was
This is
just
how we all started.
didn't think anything crazy was going on when you were at the
Yeah.
library, and you were just gonna make an email and get some things solved, and then you looked into it more. Like, what the
Yeah.
heck is going on here?
I mean, I was so naive. I just thought, well, certainly if I take this hard evidence of racism to the city council, they'll take care of it like that. And they were just like, nope, let's circle the wagons around these people,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
cronies, and
Right.
protect them. And then I was like, well, I see what has to be done.
Yeah.
Well, and even on a larger scale with civility, like I think you talked about in episode 2, centrist Dems want to work with right-wingers and say, well, if we can kind of, be nice to them and give a little bit to what they want, maybe they'll vote with us. Maybe it'll work out. It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't work. It's the same thing. If
Yep.
you try to work with them and be nice, they don't care. Regardless, they're going to vote how they want to vote.
This civility is a refuge for scoundrels because they just want to keep getting away with what they've been doing and not have any blowback. That's what it really is.
That's exactly how
So
it is.
let it be on record.
Yeah.
Us at Progressive AF are anti-civility.
Yep. Well, and here's another thing. It's that if you're somebody that's not familiar with the local situation, is that just days before this decision or this agenda came out, the Herald and Review wrote an article which was 100% aimed at me and Jacob.
You're kind
Oh, yeah.
calling it an article.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that basically said, oh, they need to let the city council you need to back off of them and be civil. That follows on what maybe a week before that, Byers was talking about, oh, we've got to be, the pulpit of the crazies. And,
Would you call him by his real name?
Little Napoleon?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Little Napoleon says, well, this is the pulpit of the crazies. They've got to be civil. These people are out of control. So this is not just a few people trying to sound. This is an orchestrated effort from the elites of Decatur to
absolutely.
silence us.
It's multi-pronged, and there's nothing they hate more is the grassroots, the average person, advocating for their own rights. How dare they?
They're trying to snuff out the fire that we have been stoking and bringing up. They can see that the grassroots movement is growing here in Decatur and actually doing something. And like some other, groups in town. We're actually doing something, and they don't like it.
No.
They want to snuff it out right now. Let's douse this fire. Let's get back to the way things are, being corrupt and doing whatever the heck we want to do.
But they're so dumb.
Yeah,
They think they're going to put the fire out by throwing gasoline on
Right.
it.
That's
the
exactly
quickest
what I was
way.
gonna
The
say.
quickest way to defuse this situation and not deplatform us, but certainly take a lot of our maybe extraneous support base out, would be to opt in. It's that easy.
That would
A lot of people then are not going to be as mad. They're not going to be as willing to go. You're still going to have the core people that are going to be activists,
right.
but a lot of these ancillary people are going to drop out because they just want to get high.
I mean, we'll still be here.
Right.
We're not going away.
Right.
And in fact, the real MG, Mark Girdler, he's coming for one of your seats.
Absolutely.
Will Wetzel, he'll be coming. Our friend John Phillips, I anticipate us helping him too. I mean, we're coming for 3 seats. So I mean, it's already too late for us. But you can stop the dispensary folk from being too angry.
But they've already made commitments elsewhere when
Right.
it comes to those votes. It's a little too late. They can't tear down crossings. So they're not going to opt in.
Well, they're not gonna upset Daddy Warbucks.
It's just not good strategy. I could at least respect it if they were making like some nice chess moves, so I could feel like I was outsmarting somebody. This just feels like I'm holding a little kid off at arm's reach that's trying to hit me. I feel bad at this point.
It's pretty one-sided affair, at least whenever it comes to winning hearts and minds.
Yeah.
Like you said, I feel like they're trying to put out our fire by just throwing gasoline on it.
Mhm.
Because they've never dealt with people like us before. They don't know how to approach it. They're just like, well, let's intimidate them. Oh, well, that was worked real well for you for the last year. So
Yeah, I feel like that's exactly how it is. Like they've been in this position of power for a long time. Whenever there's been something that somebody's come along and tried to stir something up, they did this tactic before and it worked.
Mhm.
It's not working this time. We're here to stay, and we're going to make sure we are there at those meetings, and we're going to speak to you about the problems that we have that you are not dealing with. No matter what you do, we're going to be there.
Who do you think's more popular on the street, them or us? I mean,
it's not even close.
It's not even close, guys.
I can't even go anywhere without somebody come up to me and telling me how they don't like Julie Moore. Now nobody knows who Chuck Kuehl is, so nobody's coming up to me and saying that because they don't know who Pat McDaniel is, but they know who the mayor is. They certainly know who Dan Calkins is.
Before I met you, I mean, I saw Mark at the school board meeting, and I'm like, "Are you serious, Beth? Who's this guy? I love this guy." After his speech, I'm like, "Oh, this guy's awesome." And now, look at us now.
That
I really
buds.
didn't even address any issues. I just went up and lit them up and told them they weren't going to tell people what they could and couldn't do, and then I left.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Anna, because the way Mark got involved with us was we organized a pretty significant showing at the cannabis vote, and I'm co-chair of DSA, full disclosure, and I'm always in recruitment mode, and I see this wild guy get up there, and he ends his speech with, and we can all agree, what was it, the Hell in a Cell?
We can all come together and rally around the fact that in 1998, The Undertaker threw mankind off the Hell in a Cell where he plummeted 16 feet to the announce table.
Yep, and that was my introduction to the real MG, and that's what I was like, I gotta get that guy.
And I said
So-
that after I detailed a series of horrible, violent things that have happened at the Decatur Public Library. Because I knew no one would remember those,
Right.
but I knew
Right.
people would remember the rest of it.
So I re-listened to that council episode like 5 times, like trying to, what the hell is his name? Garter? And I'm messaging other people like, do you know this guy? Like, no, I never heard of him.
You were headhunted, Mark.
Yep.
Make you feel
They-
good?
they-
I got a lot of messages that night.
They called him the library guy. I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
But I planned it that way because I was at all those meetings pretty much by myself.
Mhm.
John Phillips was there every once in a while. The Herald and Review was there, but it was mostly just me.
Yeah.
So I knew that a lot of people would come to that meeting, and I was like, I've got to do something here that will really get everybody's attention.
I think it's kind of crazy too whenever you think about it, because you said they tried to do this kind of tactic before and try to silence you.
Yep.
And it didn't work, right? But when they know the moment, now it's not just you. A lot of people are starting to come up and starting to speak at their meetings, and now they're immediately again, shut this down. No, we're not doing it anymore. Let's limit the free speech. We don't want to hear from the citizens anymore. Like it's so immediate. I mean, it's been going on for a couple months. People coming up there giving their comments and their what's the word I'm looking for? Their problems that they're having in that they're scared, and they immediately want to shut it down. They don't want to do this anymore. If you don't want to do it anymore, you don't want to hear it from the people. Then resign. Yeah,
It's pretty easy, and in fact, we encourage it.
Yeah,
you know,
I encourage it every meeting.
In fact, I will make this ironclad promise. At least us that is even DSA adjacent, we will leave you the hell alone for the rest of your life. Just
Get out of public office.
Yeah.
I have no interest in you
Yeah,
anymore.
like if you're just a private citizen, we don't care.
I feel like maybe the reason this came on so quick is because I didn't go to that one meeting. And that's the first one I missed in so long. And they were like, man, this is nice. let's have this every time.
Speaking of that, guys, this Monday, 5:30 p. at the Decatur Civic Center, we're going to have a little vote on free speech. And we're encouraging everybody to come out to this and let the city council know what you feel about people that violate your First Amendment rights.
Yeah, let them know that your voice matters, and that you can't limit that voice.
And even if you're somebody who would never come to a council meeting otherwise, help us clear the way so that there will be people there that can speak for you at these meetings. That's an important thing too. There's a lot of people that agree with the things that are being said, but they're worried about, blowback or the things that, have happened to some of us that would happen to them.
Right.
You're busy with your lives. We're trying to go there. We're willing to really take that time to go make sure that our public officials are doing their job properly. We know that maybe not everybody can be there, but this is a very extremely serious issue. They are trying to take our right to voice our opinions away. We need everyone to come out because only numbers change their minds. They got tons of money, they made up their decision. But if half of Decatur comes out to the Civic Center on Monday at 5:30 and lets them know, hey, this is not okay. We want our voice to matter. They will have to change. They can't vote for this. I mean, they can, but they would be completely.
Well, that's when Chuck Cool's going to threaten to get 2 vampire cops.
My fear is that no matter what we do at this point, we're just stuck for the next year because
we really
they
are.
know that they're not going to get reelected.
Yeah,
true.
So that doesn't mean we have to make it easy on them.
No, we're not. We're not rolling over. We're not laying down.
No. So show up at this Monday, Decatur, Illinois, at the Decatur Civic Center, and let the council know that our voices matter. All right, so on to another topic, and it concerns the local politicians. The local politicians, some of them don't like certain bird folk. Some people, they like to, talk to us on social media about the problems that they have with us. Mr. Girdler, do you have any comments on that?
Well, I think we've touched base with a few local politicians. First, it would have to be Dan Calkins, who is running unopposed, sadly. And I just posted one time that I'd never vote for him because I'd never vote for somebody who hated owls. And that's pretty much defined his life.
Hate owls? How could you?
Since that moment happened.
What an odd platform to run on.
And I thought, it'll never get better than this. This is it. Dan Calkins hates owls is my masterpiece for this guy. Well, then I get messages that he's blocking people on the official state representative Facebook page, which is a federal crime. He's censoring, what people say on there if they disagree with him. So I happened to go on there, and he had just deleted a bunch of posts, but he left up a picture of, was it Lindsey Graham, holding a giant gun-sized dildo. So I wrote an article on my blog, and I started calling him Dildo Dan. And I went out during the last rally and had a sign that said Dildo Dan Calkins for Gulag. So Dildo Dan doesn't talk to us much anymore. He did kind of ask me what's going on with the owl thing. And he said that I was defaming him, I think is what he said. He said something like, I disagree with you and I find that to be defamatory or something. And then we reached out to Sue Shearer, who some people told me that they were trying to get a hold of her and she wouldn't answer. And for some reason, I just attract answers from whoever I talk to.
Fear.
And so I just put Sue Shearer and then 5 thumbs down emojis. And she responded and she's like, Mr. Girdler, I can't help you fix this if you just give me a bunch of thumbs down. She's like, feel free, I'll have a meeting with you, whatever. And then there was just this outpouring of people telling her exactly what she was doing wrong, and she disappeared like so fast. She wanted no part of it whatsoever. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I love it whenever, like that right-wing conservative small-time author, like whenever he messed, like the bees just swarm. Like, just don't poke the nest, guys.
Right.
Don't.
Like, if you don't want to hear from people,
Don't
say, I'd like to know what I'm doing wrong, because then you're going to get a wave of people who are like, hey, remember when you're a Democrat, but you voted Republican on all these issues?
Yeah, that if there ever was a dino, it's Sue Scherer. In fact, I'm not going to name the local group that's left of center, but whenever we were talking about getting Stephanie Smith to run against Londrigan, they're like, we really need to get Sue Scherer out. That's who we're even more concerned about than freaking Rodney Davis. That's where she's at. That they hate her more than they hate a Republican, Rodney Davis.
And how odd is it? How odd is it that she's pretty much a conservative, running unopposed, and then Dan Calkins, certainly conservative, running unopposed. Mm-hmm. So you have these two very carefully gerrymandered districts that are running completely unopposed, but pretty much share 90% or more of their values. And that's an illusion of choice, but we don't even have the illusion of choice. We can't vote for anybody else.
Central Illinois just has the most dysfunctional politics. I assume it close to in the nation, because we have Dan Calkins unopposed, Sue Scherer unopposed, Rodney Davis. There's the 15th district. That's going to be a pretty softball race, I hear. I mean, what's going on here? This is not democracy. This is just oligarchs just putting their pets in. And
how did the Macon County Democrats? Dan Calkins is not a well-liked guy. People pulled over their cars at the rally to tell us that they hated him. So that seems like a home run to me. You just plug anybody in there to go against him. How do you just say, now we're just going to give up a state rep position?
Yeah.
It boggles my mind. I can guarantee if we were in charge of a party like that, we would have someone running against her. In fact, in this case. In fact, we probably will next election cycle.
I mean, I would do it just because to mess with him.
Right.
Like, at least you've got to put, if he runs unopposed, that means he's going to spend hardly any money, if at all. And that's just going to go into a war chest either for his next run or he's going to help somebody else out. Like, why not at least get in there and make him spend some money? And Dan Calkins is such a moron. If you've gotten into a debate with him, I know I could get him to say something offensive and end his career. The very first one. I know I could.
I wish you would have went to the town hall, I should use quotes, with him and Rodney. I believe it was in July. Dan Calkins loses his cool like fast. Oh, yeah. It is, you would destroy him. You would completely wreck him. There was just one mildly offensive veteran in the room, and he's just debunking him. That's all he's doing. And Calkins is just losing it. He's yelling, "Get him out of here!" like the crowd's booing him. I mean, he just said, "I'm a Vietnam vet," and he's attacking him. Like, no.
So we need somebody progressive to run against Dan Calkins, because you can win. Right?
Well, and even if you feel like you can't win the vote, and I mean, this ethics are subjective. My goal would just be to get him out of the race. He's got a horrible temper. He can't control himself. Just agitate him until the real Dan Calkins comes out, and then
just bring some owls to the anytime debate. You just have them on your shoulder, and they'll run away.
Yeah, I think the Democrats would say, well, we don't have a chance in that race, so we don't want to waste resources going against them when they would be better spent elsewhere. I think that's what they would say. I disagree with that. I think whenever you have a local politician that's not a real politician, a grassroots person, they can bring people in. They might not bring in a ton of money, but they'll bring in people power. Mm-hmm. So, and that expands your base. That's good.
Right.
You should always be looking to expand your base, and I don't see that.
What would it hurt to throw, a minimum amount of money to get some signs?
Nothing.
A campaign like I'm talking about is not going to be running a bunch of TV ads and stuff like that. It's just going to be like, hey, you hate Dan Calkins? We hate Dan Calkins. Let's vote him out. And then just have some signs to get awareness.
Isn't that how AOC won? I mean, she didn't have lots of money.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, and that guy was a huge incumbent. And he was powerful, too. Mm-hmm. And she was just a little Latina from, I think she was a waitress or bartender.
She was a bartender.
Bartender, okay.
Bartender in the Bronx.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
now
no.
she's the best politician in the country.
Well, it shows you like
love her.
personality matters. And Dan Calkins, Rodney Davis, Sue Shearer, none.
No.
There's not a drop of charisma between the three of them.
They're like robots.
There
They're like
really is.
Buttigieg. They're all just
Yeah.
robots, man.
I know.
Yeah, just doing their robot thing.
Well, like somebody posted on my Facebook when I put unseat Rodney Davis. They're like, "Oh, Rodney Davis is a good man, whatever." And we just asked him, like, just tell us one thing that Rodney's done well since in office. Couldn't do it. Couldn't tell us a single thing that Rodney Davis had done well in their opinion.
Hasn't he been in office a little while now, too?
Too long.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a day is too long for old silk hands. But
Like, why would you get on and say this is a good man, and then have absolutely nothing to back it up? It just doesn't make sense.
That's
to
half
me.
the right wing party. I mean, I remember watching I think maybe I talked about this in a episode that we had. But at a Trump rally, they were talking about to Trump supporters about why they like Trump or whether they believed he should be impeached, and they just kept saying, "Well, he doesn't have to be impeached. Just go read the transcript. He didn't do anything wrong." And the reporter asked, "Did you read the transcript?" No, we didn't read it. But we believe that Trump, read it and he's in the right. I mean, you can't just. That's right wing. They just like the guy. They don't know any facts about the person.
Their party first.
Party first, exactly. If it's a Republican on the right wing, vote for him. No, don't need any facts about it.
But if we try to do the right thing, which is not to be about party and be about values, we get absolutely demonized by the other people on the left.
oh god,
Yeah.
the centrists,
Like-
they hate a values voter.
Like saying this is how we get Trump. No, we got Trump because you backed the wrong candidate last time.
You backed a candidate who was well known for documented corruption, who had the huggability of a cactus. I mean,
And it's Doug
like-
Wolf's birthday, so shout out to old Cactus Dick.
I mean, like, Jesus, they should be embarrassed that they
Yeah.
lost to Trump.
They should, but they want, and then they want to blame it on Bernie supporters.
Don't
I'm
you
like,
get-
no, it's on you.
Well, and they have this illusion that the people who supported Bernie back then went right to Trump. The people that I know
Yeah,
who
they
supported
do.
Bernie went to Jill Stein for the most
yeah,
part. Like,
yeah.
I read that all the time. Oh, Bernie supporters are the ones who got Trump in. No.
Okay, so the people that were on the left all of a sudden moved right.
Right.
the
You-
furthest left
Yeah.
voted for Trump. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
And I think Susan Sarandon was the spearhead person for that because she voted for Trump, but she was a Bernie supporter.
What?
So, yes.
That's
I
insanity.
thought she was a Stein voter.
No, she voted for Trump.
That is wild.
That is wild.
Okay.
So people see that and they're like, oh, that's what the
bizarre.
Bernie bros did.
Yeah.
No.
No, because honestly, more Bernie supporters backed Hillary Clinton than Hillary Clinton supporters backed Obama.
Well, he actually hurt his own brand by doing that because a lot of people expected him to either go independent or just to be like, hey, I'm out. But he went to bat for her, and I think that hurt it.
It did.
Well, and now she's trying to use it against him and pretend that he didn't do anything for her, which is
It's
clearly a
disgusting.
lie.
Don't blame me. I voted for Vermin Supreme. So.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So that wraps up our segment on the owls and our local politicians and.
I had more to
their
say, but
interactions
Justin
with
has to
us.
pee. I just want that on the record.
Thanks, guys. There was a reason why I was making those motions and not saying it out loud.
Oh, I misinterpreted it.
Oh, but we're gonna allow Mr. Justin to go pee, and we're gonna.
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate that.
We're gonna.
You can go ahead and start, though.
We're gonna go ahead and
Go ahead and
start
start.
the
You don't have to
next segment that we have. We're going to be talking about police reform. It's a big topic in the Democratic presidential race. I, for one, it's one of my biggest topics. And one big reason why it matters here in Decatur is recently, in November, on November 6th, there was an off-duty patrol officer with the Decatur Police Department who was charged with a DUI with suspicion of driving under the influence here in Illinois. And I have the official report here. It says Around 3:50 in the morning, an Illinois State Police trooper noticed a vehicle not responding to a light turning green and initiated a traffic inquiry. When it was determined that the driver of the vehicle, 25-year-old Bradley A. Hall, was a city police officer, the state trooper contacted the Decatur Police, which in turn contacted the Macon County Sheriff's Office. After a field sobriety test, the sheriff's deputy considered there probable cause to make an arrest for DUI in Illinois. Hall, who joined the police department in July 2008, was booked and released with a notice to appear in court on December 10th. He was acquitted. He was the charge was dismissed. He was clearly.
I'm sure that's what would have happened to anybody, right?
No, sure. It was dismissed. He was reinstated on what I got here. It said on Wednesday, and it clearly said that. Here it is. He got acquitted, but he was clearly intoxicated. He had beers in the car. He was stopped at a red light. I mean, he was completely intoxicated. Was charged with DUI, and it was just completely dismissed. That happens all around the country with police officers. You get a case. If you do something wrong as a police officer, but the police like you. You're part of the clan, the
brotherhood.
Group. Right, so they'll look out for you, and they'll let you off. You can do whatever you want.
Well, there's a circle the wagons mentality in the police community. I think I could be mistaken. They think that if you're a whistleblower, that you're betraying all of them, and you're just a backstabber, and that to me is a big part of the problem with their culture. If I was an honest cop and then I had a guy next to me taking money under the table, for let's say mafia. I mean, there's no mafia that I'm aware of around here, but just for argument's sake, it would offend me because I would be tied to his lack of ethics too. Mm-hmm. So I would think that they would want.
Well, they have like a twisted view of it because they think, if we punish this guy, it's going to make it look like the cops are bad. When in actuality, to the public, convicting somebody of a crime, if they're a cop, makes us think, hey, maybe the rules do apply to everybody.
Yes, absolutely. There's bad people in every single segment, every single group. We know that. But when you're covering up for the worst of the worst all the time, that's when people start having problems.
I mean, the police reform became a big issue, of course, around. And I think it's kind of crazy. Of course, it became a big thing. I mean, it's always been a big thing, but we know with all the black unarmed deaths that happened around the election time in 2015, 2016, it was a big issue because it was an election year. I mean, black individuals are obviously policed more than whites. In a study I got here, African Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white Americans. That's according to a study by Frank Edwards of Rutgers University College of Criminal Justice, Hedwig Lee of Washington University and St. Louis Department of Sociology, and Michael Esposito of the University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research. Blacks get killed 2.5 times more likely than whites. It happens all around the country. We need police reform. After Chicago in 2018, just talking about needing police reform, on February 9th in 2008, the city issued a $9.3 billion check for a reverse conviction case. And it happens all the time, Chicago. It happens all the time everywhere, where you have, black people who are arrested on murder, and then 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, they're, found not guilty. And it happens all the time.
Yeah, like that Central Park group, they were exonerated by DNA. That gentleman in Alabama that's been in prison for, 60 years for $9 he stole? Yeah. Like, that's insane. Like, almost every one of us has committed a crime. like a misdemeanor or something that was worse than stealing $9. Like, come on.
Mhm.
Well, and that applies directly to us locally, even maybe more in Decatur than a lot of other places, because we're the 7th worst place to live if you're African American, but we're the 3rd best if you're a cop.
I don't think it's coincidence that those are inverted.
Oh no, but I mean, like, this isn't some esoteric thing that we're talking about that doesn't actually impact us locally. Like, even at every level, like, it's a huge issue.
It is.
And I want to just say that I feel like, because it kind of happened with me, it's not in the public eye anymore. Police harassment and things like that aren't in the public eye anymore because I don't think it's an election year. It was big. It was very big. It was on CNN. Fox News was talking about all these cases with Mike Brown and Fernando Castile and all Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, all of them. It was happening all the time.
Right.
I want people to understand that it hasn't gone away. It's still happening. Just because it isn't in the private eye, don't think that it's gotten any better. It's still happening. I have happened in 2016. There's a Baltimore man who called 911 for help. He got help. He was calling the police to get some help because he felt threatened in his own home, and they came to his house and they beat him and arrested him, and he died later that day. When they got there, he was clearly under not influence or something. Maybe he had a mental health issue, but he was acting sporadic, and they threw him to the ground, held him down with their weight, and then punched him rapidly in the back of the head, and he died later because of swelling in his brain. Like, it's happening now. It's still happening. It hasn't gone away. Police reform has to happen because they're not doing, I want to say a whole lot of them aren't doing their jobs properly. I mean,
if a single blow is landed on a person that's restrained, that officer should be out of a job for the rest of his life, minimum. It's brutality.
Mm-hmm.
There's no excuse for that.
I think the reason that we're not seeing it in the news isn't because it's happening less. I think we're not seeing it because it's happening more. It's like these mass shootings. Mm-hmm. There's so many of them. The news just doesn't cover them unless there's some kind of clever hook to them anymore.
Because we're numb to it.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens so frequently and so often that we're numb to it now.
When every day it's something else. The news cycle just goes and goes and goes. And it's something that happened 2 days ago. You read about it and you're like, oh, I thought that was last month. Because so much has happened every single day.
The news cycle is 30 seconds long.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's for a good reason. There's a lot of stuff going on. I know Girdler. He used to be in the evangelical community. They used to... I was a big fan of all those Left Behind books. Mm-hmm. And they would talk about, at the end of times, events will just happen, like rapid fire. Right. All these calamitous events will just start going on. And that's... I'm not in that community, so that's not what I'm thinking. But it reminds me of that. Like, there's just so much going on at such a rapid pace. It's hard to keep track of.
I think we just need to remember that, these people's lives being lost, to everyone else, it seems like, okay, yeah, it happened, okay, on to the next thing. But to their families and people who care about them, that's going to last forever. The guy calls for help and he's dead. What kind of protect and serve is that?
Yeah. When people
Who are we supposed to call? When you call the police and you show up, they show up and they kill you.
Yeah.
Well, when people are mobilizing, like now they've got that whole thing about free trans, I think it was in New York, where they're like going to organize at a certain time and like they're just going to shut the whole thing down. Like they're just basically saying like, cops, show up. We're going to show up and we'll see what happens.
I think something that would help is having a citizen council that acts as a watchdog. And I know the union would fight it tooth and nail, but sunlight is the best disinfectant. You keep everything out in the open, everything's square. Let's remove the appearance of impropriety. If you're an honest person, you shouldn't have anything to hide. So,
well, and you would think like with the body cams and the dashboard cams, how much of that stuff just flitters away, and it's like, we don't know what, there was a glitch in the...
it got turned off.
Got turned off somehow.
I beat the shit out of that person.
Yeah.
Looking for the DUI charge that I talked about here in Decatur, I couldn't find it anywhere. It was hard to find it.
Yeah.
I mean, the moment something like that happens, it gets dismissed. They take it away immediately. They don't want
Right.
they don't want their department to look bad.
You
Like,
don't see
take it
that on the
away.
front page of the Herald and Review, but they got plenty of space to talk about people who aren't civil enough at the city
Mhm.
council.
Let's get to the core issues here. You know, what's really important.
I just think that they're terrified to run a story like that because even though they say now that Buffett's divesting from the paper, which I don't think is a coincidence, but I think it's because it's so heavily tied into the DUI issue in Decatur being so heavily much of a like racial issue that they don't even want to like associate, with it at all.
Well, that could taint his whole brand.
Mhm.
And Papa Buffett, I mean, he wants no part of that, I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think the statistics are staggering. The amount of African Americans and Hispanics in jails, compared to white Americans. I think we really need police reform. It has to happen. I mean, it might not affect you if you're maybe a white Caucasian American here, because maybe you don't get harassed as much. But there's a huge population in this country who gets harassed by police.
Trust me, having that white mail card does not get you out of everything. I mean, trust
you're
me.
okay with the police doing certain things to some people, but once they do it to you, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure it's good for everyone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're holding our police officers accountable. We're not just, if they get a DUI, they get the same treatment as everybody else. You don't just let them off, right? But I think that's a very big issue that we need police reform in this country. And I hope that you guys all support me in that.
Absolutely.
So definitely.
Abolish them.
But I think that's going to conclude our podcast today here at Progressive AF. Thank you for listening to us today. Share us, like us, subscribe to us. Any support would help.
I'd like to say one thing. We're doing a polar plunge, and this is a great way for our haters to get us into freezing cold water. And all the proceeds go to the Special Olympics. So, we don't get a dime of it. We only get punished by freezing cold water. So we're going to run into Lake Decatur for the Special Olympics. Go search us on the Polar Plunge website, Central IL DSA. Donate, get us in that cold water.
No, thank you, Justin. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to us. We hope you have a good day. Have a good week. Stay progressive.
That's right.